Wodenshot said Shane Davis, when writing your comic books, is creating interesting goog eyes and bag eyes hard in this age of anti-heroes and morally gray characters.
I set forth. I set forth. Here's what's weird. I put a.
Morally.
I learned to draw so I could draw comics, right? For the mentally challenged, the illiterate, that is, like, people like Wodenshot. I mean, obviously, he's illiterate. Like, I draw these pictures to help him understand and process the word balloons. The pictures, yeah. And I hope to God one day he can learn to spell.
Characters.
Morally gray characters. Sorry.
These SJW bitches, you are purposely trying to cancel me so you get my achievements. So you walk around with my scalp and you're like, well, if Shane achieved this, look at what I did because I took down Shane. These motherfuckers think they're fucking Highlanders. They think they can go around cutting people's heads off and the quickening happens or some shit. Fucking lightning's gonna hit them. A fucking Queen song's gonna light up and play. And these motherfuckers are gonna be more powerful than they were before. It's not the case. You are no more talented by canceling me.
It's getting close. It's getting married. Where the Shane Davis at? Where my Shane Davis?
Rangy is the Comicsgate god. Voodoo powers in his hand. Sleeps with your mamas, oh yes. Just $5, he's the man. Women love him, what a sight. Range commands the darkest night. King of all with charm so grand. Takes your worries with glance. Range is king, yes he is. Every lady wants his kiss. Magic flows from every word. Best believe you've seen and heard. Motivation he inspires. Voodoo dances round the fire. Range commands the night so bright. In the shadows he's the light. Makes all your troubles disappear. Mange is king, yes he is. Every lady wants his kiss. Magic flows from every word. Best believe you've seen and heard.
No complaints. Woo! No complaints
Man,
from the
got
bully.
raped by the main.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Tonight, I have got one of Comicsgate's greatest artists on with me, and I'm very honoured. The true leader of Comicsgate. Everyone loves him. Don't deny it. Everyone loves him. It is Mr. I'm gonna be asking him a lot of questions tonight, and I hope he's comfortable. Mr. Shane Davis.
Oh, thanks for having me. Oh my
Thanks
God.
for coming on. Thank you for coming on, Shane. It's amazing to have you, mate. I've been waiting to speak to you for ages.
A
I've come
lot
on
of
your
people.
show.
There's people lining up around the block to say "fuck you," and I'm like,
Yeah.
John's out here rallying for an apology tour. I promise one every year. I do. I promise one every year, and every year I fall back on that promise. And yeah, look, guys, we're gonna pencil something in. I'm not brave enough to use an ink pen because I probably won't show up. But let's get an apology tour, maybe a T-shirt. I can just put town to town. Everybody, if you'll DM me what town I need to stop in, I'll put it on the back of the T-shirt. It'll be the Shane Davis Apology Tour 2025. Oh!
I don't think you got much to apologise for, mate.
There's that one town I have to apologize for not pulling out. Woo!
So,
Sorry, you're bored.
you've got thank you, Base Start Department and Travis Parrott for your super chats. Travis Parrott says, "Can we get a drawing tutorial from Mange's mustache?"
Yeah,
Oh,
I grow it like overnight. I have to shave like 3 times a day naturally, and I'm like, fuck, I'm coming on Johnny Scab. I'll just shave like at like 6 p.m. and it'll grow in by the morning. Right? 12 hours, I got a full stash.
no, I appreciate you going full Mange. You look brilliant. I love your costumes, your outfits. So I want to start by asking you like a little bit about your upbringing and the whole sort of.
You want to ask this guy about his upbringing? You're like, let me get down to the brass tacks. Let me get to the lowest common denominator of what went wrong. It's like, holy shit, dude. Somebody dressed like this. I was like, I need to talk about your upbringing. Look.
Obviously, for people that don't know you, could you tell me a little bit about like where you were born and where you grew up in America?
Yeah. I was born in the South. Stars and bars, and then I grew up in a really, really poor background. Didn't have a lot of money for comics and stuff. I've told the story about how me and my brother would, while the laundry was being done at the laundromat, we couldn't even afford a laundry machine or dryer. So, our mom would be doing laundry and we would dig around looking for change in like the barrels of the big dryers, right? So there'd be a hole in the dryer. And what me and my brother, playing around found out is there was money that fell through the holes of the barrel down to the machine that turns the barrel, right? And that if I pushed him into the dryer and we got a pencil and chewing gum and we lined it up just right like a fucking weird video game and got the pencil and gum in there, we could pick up quarters because people left change in their pockets and they were drawing them. And then we would take that money and go to 7-Eleven and buy a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Archie comic or a Spider-Man comic or an X-Men comic or something like that. So that's when we first started buying comics, is digging around for money for them. I mean, we had no money for things like that. Our parents made up for it on Christmas. I mean, we would get a lot of great gifts. There's a famous Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Christmas high story I tell every year. But throughout the year, there wasn't much of anything. So, and that's when I came to love comics and I could figure out I could draw a little bit. I remember trying to draw Rob Liefeld's X-Force #1 on my bedroom wall with a pencil, trying to draw like Cable and shit. It's, and then my parents getting mad that I just drew all over the fucking wall. Yeah, no. So
did you have any artists that specifically influenced you apart from Rob Liefeld? Did you have any
Art Adams? I loved Art Adams. I had this Kmart my grandmother bought for me. There was a Kmart, and you can look up this poster on eBay, and it goes for something stupid like $500 or $800. But there was a Kmart X-Men poster. And that poster to me is famous because Art Adams poster, because Havoc has no legs in the poster. Like everything's drawn beautiful, but then there are no, like, Havoc's kind of like in the background, and you should see his legs sticking down to the ground, but they're just that they're not there, they're not existent. I brought it up on the stream before, and I used to stare at that poster all the time. I was like, this guy's fucking good. I had an X-Men annual by him too. And like, look, dude, you look at that poster, however good he is, there are no fucking legs on Havoc. It just there are none. It's a beautiful poster, but I was, and that's when I realized that McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, all these people I liked were influenced by Art Adams, you know.
Right.
So, but the problem with Art Adams is Art Adams didn't do a big body of work. He would do like X-Men annuals and then maybe a small run on New Fantastic Four, I guess, which was Wolverine, Spidey, and Ghost Rider. So it was kind of hard, even as a kid. This is before trades and shit, to really track down his work. Like, if you missed it, you have to go back and try to get your comic book shop guy to sell you a copy at like 2 to 3 times the price, back issues and shit.
And what were your steps from your first drawing art to going all the way to the Cubert school? Then what got you on that road to take you there?
Oh, okay. So every year, there would be, and I've been going to this con at as early as 13 was my first year, but Heroes Comic Con, I would go every year and I would draw, and I think it was my mom or maybe my little brothers, like, you should take some of your drawings and ask those guys sitting down what they think. And it's funny because I've had all these interactions with pros I later would come to know in life, like Jimmy Palmiotti or Joe Quesada, or Brian Stelfreeze, or even Cully Hamner. And I was just like some little snotty kid showing on my portfolio in my teens and them giving me critique and criticism over my drawing. Later in life, they would just know me as Shane Davis. They didn't even know I was that same kid. So it's kind of weird. I remember one of the first times I had Jimmy Palmiotti, like, oh, how old are you? And he's like, Joe, come here. And Joe was talking to somebody else. He couldn't be bothered. And Jimmy's like, you just wait. And Jimmy Palmiotti is like, Joe, you got to look at this kid's stuff. Now, I wasn't great or anything, but Jimmy Palmiotti saw hope in that little child. He's like, you know, Joe Quesada, say something nice to this kid. This is back when they were like doing Ash or something like that. So they were riding high. You know, they were riding high in popularity, doing their own thing. And, you know, Joe, because I was like, yeah, good kid. And that was it. And then I was like, wow, I knew I sucked. But I had one editor. Her name was Melanie Crawford Chadwick. She used to work on Vampirella. And I was probably around maybe 16. And she's like, you're not even drawing with the correct paper. You got to draw on Bristol board. I mean, I couldn't even find the correct tool. She's like, you're drawing, you need technical pencils or something. You're sitting here sharpening a pencil constantly and it's all sketchy. And she literally mailed me some art materials. She went back all the way to New York and mailed me back some art materials. And she said, I'm going to give you a sample script and I want you to take this professionally. And I'm like, what? She's like, really show what you can do and draw, because there's a new book we need. And I'm like, okay. So I got these new, I opened the package. I got a nice mechanical pencil. Never seen one of these things before. I got like Bristol board. It's like, holy shit. I mean, at this point, I'm afraid to touch it. I'm like, I've never seen these art materials before. What am I going to do? And she gave me a sample script of, I think it was a Vampirella sample script. I called her up on the phone. She's like, yeah, now you really make those pages look good, but I need to see what you can do in like, maybe she gave me 2 weeks. And I drew the hell out of those pages the best I could, but I didn't have enough time, I felt. And they did not look great. I later, I remember looking at those. I was like, God, they're shit. It's just like really good. Keep going, keep practicing. I was like, I didn't get the job. Now, I don't think I was ever going to get the job, but what would happen is Ed McGuinness would get Vampirella #1 right after that. And I remember seeing that in the grocery store comic shop, and I just saw it, and I was like, and that hit me. I'm not even like an adult, and I'm like, I took it to heart. I was like, I just lost an opportunity of something I really want to do in life. I just lost. I was not good enough to do what I really wanted to do. I felt bad. I mean, I had this knot in my stomach. Imagine this like 16-year-old kid with this knot in his stomach that he just wasn't good enough to draw a professional comic.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is Ed McGuinness? I'm like pissed.
So what inspired you to keep going after you felt like you couldn't do it?
No, I mean, I stayed on it. I kept drawing. I would do sample pages constantly. I worked like a horrible job in a factory for about 3 years. Third shift. And why I say it was horrible, because on top of third shift, I had to have a pager. And so I'd either get called in early or get called or have to stay after 4 hours. And it's like, and when you work third shift and you're working third shift 5 times a week, I mean, the only way you can really not be a zombie is to get some sort of sleep schedule, right? Because if you see sunlight, you just wake up. So you have to get, black out your windows and all that shit. So my sleep schedule's constantly been fucked up for working third shift that long, but it was the worst third shift in the sense that, like, maybe, like I said, I would get woken up before I go to work, or I would couldn't go to sleep because I had to stay after 4 hours on time. So my whole schedule for 3 years was just fucked up. And I would, whenever I could find time, I would draw and really draw sample pages and continue to go to like Comic Cons and show my portfolio and say, yeah, you saw me last year. Here, I got new stuff. And I'd always work on sample pages, not just splash pages, but whatever. And I decided to apply for the Kubert School. I saved up a bunch of money working in a factory. And I said, I'm going to try to make a real jab at drawing comics. Go to school, learn the pencil, I guess. And it was bumpy transition, but yeah, that's what I did.
Well, that's good. So you didn't have no help from no one. You just worked hard and done it yourself, and you thought, I'm going to do it, and you put the effort in. You didn't get no handouts.
And so I look back at it, and I'm like, was so stupid, because I had help when I went to school. I had proper teachers and stuff like that, but I mean, the weird thing about art school is, if anybody wants to know what art school is like, there's this one movie called Art School Confidential. It's got John Malkovich in it. I think it's done by the same cartoonist that did the, it wasn't a comic, but he did other comics called Ghost World, that movie, Ghost World.
Right.
Anybody remembers that? It's the same guy. And if you watch that movie, that's what art school is like. Because basically you take a bunch of talented people, and some of these guys were the most talented, in their little bubble background or whatever. And then you put them in a room with a bunch of people who equally were talented or more driven, whatever the case is. And you basically end up with like conflict. You end up with like resentment, cliques, buddies. You'll start seeing people with less drawing ability start hating people with more drawing ability. You'll see people with a lot of drawing ability just not want to work because they're like, yeah, I'm already good. And before you know it, they're not so good because the people that do work get a lot better. So it's an interesting dynamic, but it's always tension. Like, it's always tension. And it's weird because I see a lot of that in Comicsgate. I still see that here to this day. Not so much when I worked in comics, but when I got back to when I got into Comicsgate, I see a lot of that happen. And it's interesting because in art school, like, you know, we do our assignment and we'd put them up on the board and we'd all have to critique, and it's like, again, that movie Art School Confidential, the guy that's the most talented piece sitting up there is the one everybody tears down the most, and then the most fucking horrible piece everybody loves. And it's I don't know how else to explain it besides that movie, a normie. Anybody else that's been to art school knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of rivalry there because you're all kind of aiming to get the best job out of it as well, aren't you? At the end of it.
So I would compete with myself, not people next to me, because I knew I was the only thing holding me back. Like, you know, what's the difference between me drawing this bad or this great? Me, not the guy to the left or right of me. So, but everybody else would start focusing. Like, I remember one time I was drawing on some pages in class, and a guy from another class who was a real prick left his class for a smoke break, walked into my class, walked behind me, stood over my shoulder to see what I was drawing, didn't say a goddamn word, and went back to his table in the other class. And I was like, that's the type of pricks you end up around. Some people couldn't handle it. Some people would drop out. You know, they would just be like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I thought I wanted to do this, but I don't want to do this anymore. They get in the fray of it, you know.
And a lot of people have more creative minds, don't they? Like that guy who's looking at your work. He probably can't. He's looking at your work to get ideas of what to draw because he can't think of it himself. There's a lot of people that are they're not very creative. You can get good artists that are really good artists, but they can only draw what they see, or like life drawing and stuff like that.
Well, creative's only part of the problem. Creative's only part of the problem. You can only go so far with creativity. You have to have drive. It doesn't matter how creative you are. Like, if you don't have the drive to finish a piece or put it down or get it done and move on to the next board. That's why comics is this interesting dynamic, because you know, it has to be a finished piece. It has to have a structure. It has to tell a story. And traditionally, comics is this one weird art medium where it doesn't matter. It's not about your feelings. It's not a matter of how you want to draw exactly. It's about a product. You're a commercial artist, and it's weird because that was like something they told us first day. They're like, look, you might want to be painting a canvas and put your feelings out on it and just throw paint everywhere, and you don't charge $1 for it, and that's fine. But you're a commercial artist, you work in a comic, there's a price tag on that comic. It has to meet certain standards. It doesn't matter how you feel. Like, you have to do the story justice, you have to do the panel justice, you have to do this. And it's funny because working in comics, you know, I mean, the independent comics stuff at one time, maybe like the 2000s, really started being about like people with these little personal stories, and they breaking the norm of what I guess a traditional comic style was, or mainstream style, which is fine, and all of that's fine. But you have to understand, it still becomes a product in the end, unless you're giving it away for free, right? It's still a product in the end, and you know, you're up for criticism, and that's the weird thing I'm starting to see in the indie comic sphere now. Is like, people are like, oh, you can't criticize my books. That's not fair criticism. It's like, you put a price tag to it, you're up for criticism. I said this with Ethan the other day. We come from a different generation where we'd have 3 preview pages thrown up. Nobody bought them. Like, DC had issued 3 preview pages of the next issue of JLA or whatever. And you go look at that forum, and it's just nothing but pages of people bitching about it. And we just had to say, our job was just to take it. Like, our editors would say, you can't talk back to these people. You can't say anything. So I think I'm of the generation where we're a little bit more thick-skinned with people hating on our work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So whereas like there's a lot of people now, they're just like, you can't talk about my hands. You can't talk about, you know, you can't talk about my story. You can't criticize my book. And it's like, Are you asking money for it? Because if you are a kid, that's on your ass.
Definitely. Once you're asking money from the public, you're kind of, it becomes sort of like their property as well, doesn't it? I mean, if you bought it, you want the best
Yeah.
out of it.
And the other thing is people like, what is the thing I'm hearing now? Like, there's another thing that's creeping up that's interesting. Passion. They're like, but I have the passion. I'm like, yeah, that and 50 Cent don't get a cup of coffee. If you can't execute, it doesn't matter what your passion is. And that's what I was saying with creativity. If you can't, comics. A lot of people don't understand it. It doesn't matter how I feel about my drawing. It matters whether I can execute it or not. It doesn't matter. Like story, you have to execute. It doesn't matter what it's not like somebody's. It has to land. You have to stick the point. If it doesn't hit the readers and they don't get the vibe or the whatever, it doesn't matter what your intentions are. If it doesn't land, it doesn't land. If you have to execute.
Very well said. that makes a lot of sense as well. Dennis Rodriguez in the chat says, hello everyone. Shane, what does CG mean to you? That's quite a big question.
Dude, I have the weirdest CG story, and Ethan knows it, so he'll make reference to it sometimes. But so I kind of, it's weird, and the people are gonna say that's not true, and all of this, but the reality is I kind of saw Ethan get canceled. Told Ethan was going to get canceled. This is the short of it. Nobody understood what cancel culture was. I ended up getting in fights with the people canceling Ethan, getting kicked out of comics book forums and rooms with all these big professionals, as big as Scott Snyder to whoever, Rob Liefeld in these rooms. I'm getting kicked out for sticking up for Ethan. And then Ethan went to, became Comicsgate. And, I continued talking to him. He invited me to come over to Comicsgate. I was a caregiver at the time for my mother. And I just said, I don't think I can handle it, taking money for anything and telling people I can produce it on X date because my life is just so weird right now. So I maintained in comics, just drawing like maybe 2 covers a month, for DC. I wasn't even really drawing interiors, a one shot here or there that had a real big, a lengthy deadline. Like when comics do a one shot and they get a lot of room, they get extra time because there is no issue 2, there is no issue 3, right? They get actually just being a single issue makes it have more time. There's not, you know what I mean? There's no boulder coming down saying, where's issue 2 at? So that's the short of it. The short answer, I mean, I can go into details about all that, but that's the short answer to that.
Oh, someone said Rob Liefeld's e-fapping us as we chat. Be careful what you say.
No, Rob was nice. Rob didn't kick me out of a room. I'm just saying people like that were in the room. Like, I remember I was telling Rob how to get equity from DC Comics for characters he created in that room. Like, it was just a room where comic pros could talk about stuff. And there was one thread that kept me interested in the room, and it would be like people posting artwork on what was on their table. And this thread was infinite. Like, so you just see these great comic book artists, and some you never heard of, just post a half-done drawing like you would never see online or anything. And it was a private group too, so whenever you're doing work for Marvel and DC, you have to ask permission what you can post, right? That's why you'll see like Greg Capullo show one little panel. So like, as teasers or whatever. And it was just great to see, a half-done cover or something like that. And I stayed invested in the room, but then that room started to turn about, well, Ethan Van Sciver's over here, a Nazi. And I don't mind saying who these people are. Dave Johnson, Cully Hamner, people like that. We're sitting here arguing over Ethan, and he's got to go. And at the same time, the conversation in that room started talking about, your boy Zach hating on Miss Marvel Kamala Khan and stuff like that, and how that book's important and representation. And in that room, I got accused of leaking this on the room, but that's the room where they were planning to sucker punch Zach at New York Comic Con. But I was kicked out of the room, but they accused me of leaking that in the room, even publicly on Facebook. I had I can't remember the guy's name, but he's some Marvel writer now, but he was actually calling me out publicly on Facebook that I leaked that information. And I didn't. But they did say it. Well, the reason they accused me is I lectured them in the room like, guys, what the fuck are you doing? You sitting here trying to entice violence at a con? That's good for nobody. And I'm like, besides this bitch-made behavior. And I said, what? You're going to go up there and try to punch? Because they were trying to find a picture of him to attack him. Like, that was their whole thing. And I lectured them saying, what? You're going to have some... You're going to go up there, get winded, throw a big old fat haymaker and land on some kid that's dressed as Spider-Man. Like, I'm like, the fuck is this good for anybody? It's like, what are you guys doing? And because I said that, they accused me of leaking that from the room when they all got butthurt that snippet came out. This is the same room that they were like, oh, Ethan's a Nazi. DC needs to quit giving him work. And keep in mind, this is happening in front of however many pro artists, pro writers. Like I said, Scott Snyder was in there, you know, people like Rob Liefeld. I didn't ever get a real sense of how many people were in there, but I didn't even understand why the writers were in there. But because to me, it was mainly an artist forum and throwing, you know, but and the people that were moderators were artists. I ended up getting kicked out of that room like 3 times and they'd let me back in. Because I kept wanting to get back in. I was like, I gotta see what's happening. And it was weird because all of this was happening during the really after the election. It's weird. So I kind of had the way Facebook was at the time, and maybe it still is. I don't really do it. Is people kind of like people would just add you to a group. You wouldn't even accept. It would just show up on your timeline, right? Now I'm added to this group. And so I'm seeing, like, at the same time, I'm over here in this conservative group with Ethan, where I'm starting to see terms like soy boy and SJW's terms start talking. I'm actually talking to Ethan about your boy Zach videos and DMs. I mean, it was a weird time in comics, right? Because Zach was saying things that made a lot of sense. Like, to the point that Zach was even saying, this looks like Marvel's trying to kill their own company, the things they're doing. And it made sense because it's like, who wants this? I don't want to go draw this. Who wants to buy this? If I don't want to draw it, I kind of pretend like nobody wants to buy it because I want to draw fun shit, right? I don't want to draw Miss Marvel. You know, who wants to draw a little Muslim girl with a big fist? And still, yeah, nobody really buys that book. You know, and it was a weird time in comics. So people go, well, how did you end up in Comicsgate? It's like, I think I kind of saw this cultural shift, watched it. And again, I bring this up with Ethan. Like, nobody said, hey, what's happening to Ethan is cancel culture. Nobody, that term really wasn't a thing, you know, because basically all this shit, and it's a lot like the Dungeoneer files. I've made this reference before because I'm on their shit list anyways. It doesn't really matter. It's like this back room where everybody's griping, right? And they're building up. And then all of a sudden, everybody who's not in the room, they just see 12 people bitching about something at the same time. So it looks like a legitimate problem. But what people on the outside don't see is behind a curtain, it's all cooking up. And that's kind of what happened to Ethan. Like, it was the same thing. Like, I remember Dave Johnson, he's like, well, he can't be getting work anymore from DC Comics. And I wrote, well, Dave Johnson, guess what? DC Comics is always going to be writing him a check. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, he's they're always going to print his work. He's going to get paid. What do you mean? And he's all capital. Like, what do you mean? And then people are like, bro, you're rubbing people the wrong way. I'm like, why? Because it's the reality. You think they're going to quit printing Green Lantern Rebirth? He's going to cash check for that the rest of his life. They're not going to not print that.
Yeah.
What? And they're like, well, he shouldn't get any more work. I'm like, okay, for how long? Because I was also listening to Joe Rogan a little bit, and they were talking, I think, about, my timeline might be weird, but that's when Joe Rogan was ahead of it a little bit. He was saying they were talking about Twitter and getting kicked off of Twitter and stuff, and saying there should be a path to redemption, right? That these platforms should give you a way to get back on. I think this is when Milo got kicked off and stuff. Somehow I started hearing people talk about, even if cancel stuff on these platforms was a way, there should be a way for people to get back on. And I don't know, it's weird. Joe Rogan was really ahead of this a lot, if you go back and look at that time period. And I remember saying, like, well, what's the pun? Forever he can't work in comics, and they're just like, dude, you shouldn't be saying these things. I'm like, you're saying these things. I'm asking you, like, you're the one saying you shouldn't have work. And that and keep in mind, I didn't really know what I know now. I mean, I'm sitting here watching it happen in a live transaction, and the thing that really unnerved me, because I was kind of sitting out in comics altogether anyways. I couldn't take any real assignments because the touch and go situation with my mom. Like, I couldn't really commit to any heavy work. DC Comics was double shipping everything too, which made it a real nightmare to take one single issue, because they were, the machine was going heavy across the board at DC Comics. So like I was just kind of like, I guess I'll talk about this because it's not like I'm going to lose an assignment. What I didn't realize is I was already getting on a shit list just for trying to have a rational conversation with people about which I still to this day, I guess I would do it all over again. But my big issue was a bunch of comic pros, not editors, but people who are freelancers, talking about how another freelancer can't get any work. And I was like, this could turn into something, which it did, whisper networks and all of that shit. But a freelancer shouldn't be able to assassinate another freelancer because they have a financial incentive to do so. Like, if I kick this guy out of comics, then those assignments will eventually trickle down. And what'll happen is it becomes like, well, the next guy that gets those assignments and the other guy that doesn't, well, cancel them too. And you'll get, maybe it'll eventually, maybe if you kill enough people in comics, if you assassinate enough people in comics with actual talent, you'll get that job.
Yeah.
And I saw it then, and I was like, the fuck is happening here? Nobody here is any type of official employee of any of these companies, but you guys are cooking this shit up, And I mean, eventually I would get kicked out of the room altogether. I would end up on a phone conversation with Frank Terry. I'm basically telling him to go fuck himself, Dave Johnson, whoever, and because they were the moderators of the group. And eventually they would shut that group down because of the stuff that was leaking out about trying to punch your boy Zach. And that happened after Ethan. So and I was telling Ethan this was going on in the room and giving him a heads up. And I don't know. Right. I watched that whole situation with him in DC, and people say, how did you end up in Comicsgate? It's like, well, I that's the only answer I got, like I took a picture of me and I posted on Twitter the other day. I took a picture next to a Trump bus. This would have been 2015. It was outside of it. It was outside of a KFC, and I'd posted it on Facebook because I thought it was really cool. It wasn't until when Trump was first running, everybody was entertained by Trump. Like he was just entertaining. Nobody took him serious, right? He just said some funny, not normal political things on stage, right? When he was first getting into debates. Honestly, if that was a DVD box set, I'd buy it. Like, I mean, that shit was entertaining. Him calling Marco Rubio dog catcher and shit, like, or saying they wouldn't vote for him to be a dog catcher, or the Jeb Bush stuff. I mean, he had some zingers. He's very charismatic, but the minute he fucking won, holy shit. So I posted that picture, and I remember Dan telling me, you really, can't keep putting off not working. I need you to go work on a Batman book. I'm not going to say what the book is. And he's like, I'm just giving you this book, as many issues as possible, as much lead time as we can. You're just on it till you can't. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I think it was going to ship monthly. Like it wasn't in continuity exactly with everything they were doing. So I'm like, okay. And the editor like sent me a voucher, which is kind of like a contract about my royalties and all that shit. And he filled this thing up with 8 issues. I'm like, whoa, there's 8 issues on here. And he's like, yeah, no, I could. That's the max I can put on it. I'm like, fuck, I guess I'm doing 8 issues. He's like, well, if there's one you can't, you just don't get paid for it. I mean, it's, but that's 8 issues and this paperwork. Signed the paperwork, sent it back. They were waiting on script, so I would never get script. But they're like, in the meantime, because Dan wants you working, you're going to draw this inventory issue of this book. Same character, same book. Same concept, same background, same everything, same environment. So I'm like, okay, fine. I drew each page, roughs, everything, took every note, even after it was penciled, took the note, went to completion with every note, got the thing done in the amount of time he wanted me to do it, even inked it, all of this entire issue there. And there was an email exchange where I'm like, bro, where's this script at? I'm still waiting on this new script for the ongoing series. And he's like, yeah, my dog got attacked the other day. And I'm like, I reply back, and I had to go to the ER and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's really sucks about your dog and everything. In my response, I'm like, but is there still an ETA on this script? And keep in mind, I'm juggling some covers at the time. And the next thing I know, 2 days pass, I get a phone call, and he's telling me how he's went to everybody's office, and it's confirmed I'm being fired from the book. And I'm like, what? He's like, I'm sorry, it's just not working out. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not working out? I did every note you said. Dan put me on this book. I got it done the time. He's like, I know, but it's just not working out. And he was very kind of gleeful about it. He's like, I just want you to know, I went to every office about this. I hang up. I talk to Dan. Dan's like, you have to understand, I got to do what my editors want. We'll get you something else. You find something to do. I'm like, fuck, okay. And then I'm getting my covers all of a sudden pulled away. And I'm like, that sucks. Okay, now everything is leaving. I'm just now getting, married also with Yanzi. My mom's at the end of her cancer run. I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck happened? And then I go look at Twitter and I'm blocked. And somebody at DC Comics confirmed to me, you shouldn't have posted that photo of you next to the Trump bus. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have got politics involved. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like, now this is after, everything. I mean, he's the president of the United States, right? And I'm like, I showed a guy at DC who's like talent relations. I'm like, this guy has blocked me on Twitter. He's like, well, can I see your emails? I'm like, here's all my emails. You can see the time. He's like, well, you weren't turning. He goes, he told us you weren't turning your work on time. I'm like, bro, I've been paid for these on this week. Every 2 weeks, you guys were paying me. I'm like, I had to turn in the work to get paid.
And he pulls up on this computer. He's like, yeah, I see the records of your checks here. And I'm like, well, how am I getting paid if I'm missing my deadline? And he's like, let me write down an apology email, word for word, what I tell you to write. So the talent relation guy tries to help me craft an email to this guy that he would never respond to. And later on, I would end up working on some other stuff at Dan's and stuff. But the fact this guy went to every office to fire me, blocked me on Twitter, and then it was another assistant editor that reached out to me in private and was like, yeah, that Trump photo didn't help, you know. And he would eventually leave DC Comics too and go work with Mark Waid at Humanoids. So,
Right.
and I was just, it's weird. I realized then that the way American comics were working, it had nothing to do with what you could do. It had nothing to do with meritocracy. Had nothing to do with any of that. Anything I'd went to school for, I learned anything about giving a product to a customer that's competent. Everything was weird. It was upside down. And it just, whatever this was, it's over. It's just going to run itself out. The mainstream, I somehow understood, going back to the stuff that I'd seen with Ethan, going back to that situation, that it wouldn't matter. It really wouldn't matter. And I was already kind of checked out. And then Dan comes up. He's like, look, I want to do a Metal Men book. And I'm like, what? And now I was friends with Dan for years. And I'm like, and I know he loved Metal Men. And there was a big history of that book being knocked away from other people. LOL. Shane paid a crisis manager grifter. LOL, Shane. I would have given you good advice for free and never driven you to a hardware store for supplies. Yeah.
That's an interesting question I wanted to ask you as well. Like, when did
But
you
anyways,
first...
let me round this off. So I really didn't want to do the Metal Men project, but Dan really loved Metal Men, and I was friends with him, and I tried to bargain with him. And he's like, no, it has to be 12 issues. I wanted it to be smaller. I didn't think the story was 12 issues. And then I eventually just sat down and did a 12-issue run just to say I did. But and then I was like, I had already decided I was done with American comics before I did that assignment. Like I was still drawing Metal Men when I came to Comicsgate. Like I didn't just come here and launch a book. I was still drawing Metal Men. I was already defeated mentally by the American comic book industry, by what it was becoming, by what it was, the lack of control. Like the corporations really have no control over all the freelancers that are dictating who can and who cannot work in comics. Like they can't be bothered. Warner Brothers can't be bothered how DC Comics really works when you get down to it. The Whisper networks and shit, Disney can't be bothered with that. They can barely be bothered just with like what Marvel and DC does day to day. Do you think they got a fucking human resource person coming in saying these fucking freelancers are canceling one another? They don't give a fuck, really. So it's kind of like the inmates are running the madhouse type. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. They're getting mad at you because you didn't answer the question. They're saying, what does CG mean to you? They want you to define it, Shane. It's hard, isn't it? It's a hard thing to answer.
Because what it means to me, and people are going to weaponize it. That's why I dodged it. See, you can ask 12 people. There's a reason I dodged that. What CG means to them, and they go, "See, that's not what I think CG means. Fuck that guy." Yeah. And I'm like, all right. And so this is what it means to me, but you guys know exactly what I mean there. I mean, CG is, I think, freedom of speech.
Yeah. Simple as that.
If you in CG and crowdfunding, and this is my big issue with Eric, is it is the possibility that anybody can raise money and make a book possible, that you don't have to go asshole in debt, you don't have anybody telling you what has to be in your book, and you have the opportunity. Nobody's sitting there saying yes you can or no you can't, besides whatever terms of service are on whatever platform you're using. Technically that's it, you know.
Right. Very wise answer, without getting too controversial.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what it boils down to. But it can become a number of things. Off of that, it's going to build. And what I think everybody should be doing with CG is it should be a promotional network. I think it should. I've always said it's the leave a penny, take a penny type situation, you know. But, you know, I mean, you know, there's a lot of people that are like, hey, why don't you have more pennies for me to take? And they bitch and they moan and they go, you know, promo. It's like, I saw that Frega stream and that Will Perdomo guy's like, those guys only promo themselves. I'm like, bitch, I had like 4 or 5 people on on the stream like on a Wednesday.
Yeah, you've got a whole show that's just about showing off other people's work. So
yeah, it's like I don't know. It's like, but that's the thing with the CG in general, is I think most people don't understand everybody needs to be promo. I woke up today from a message from somebody who does promo, and I may go over it on another stream or something, but because of yesterday, they don't want to do promo anymore. And they just wrote me a long message how they feel and how they're disheartened by yesterday. And this has to do with the strike that happened and stuff like that. And it's literally people bitch. And it's like, so to me, you ask, well, what does CG mean to you? I mean, like, I think everybody, you know, John said it best, everybody grab an orb, but like, you know, a lot of people, you know.
Yeah. People like that you stood with Bosch after he was targeted by the cancel pigs. What's your opinion on that, on Bosch and the whole Wheeler thing?
Well, I don't know the Wheelers. Besides, one time Mike Wheeler agreed with me on a post that was about Eric and Comic Elitist. And then he had a conversation with Eric July and he took that retweet down. So that's my experience with Mike. I don't know much about him other than that. As far as Bosch is concerned, he has the right to make that book. If people don't like the book, don't buy it. I mean, nobody's forcing you to read it. Nobody's forcing you to buy it. But he should have the ability to raise money and do that book.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And bringing the whole sort of religion thing into it, I think that's just a bit weak, really. Like, it's a weird excuse trying to get him shut down.
Well, if that's see, it's a two-way street. Like, I'm not going out here trying to take down any gay pride comic books that are on Kickstarter. Why? Because freedom of speech. They have the ability to make them. I may not buy them. I may not agree with them, but they have the ability to make them. Right?
Yeah.
You can't pick and choose what religion you're going to stick behind and what type of religion you're going to execute their rules when it comes to freedom of speech. Like, not in this country. As long as they're not like doing anything illegal, you know, as far as our governing laws, they're able to express their opinion. I may not agree with it, but I mean, that's what makes this country what it is, you know. And I don't know. It's so the Bosch thing, what little I know about it, I mean, I obviously disagree with it. I mean, he should be able to sell his book. And if the Wheelers don't want to buy it, don't fucking buy it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna ask you something a little bit deeper now. Go into your psychological
Sure,
mind.
I dressed like this, and we're talking about this.
it is similar. Yeah, it's something to do with the way you are dressed. I'd like to know more about Mange and when he was first created in your mind. Like what inspired you? What He's a brilliant character, and I was wondering if you'd always had him in your head throughout your life, or is he something you recently created?
It's just about
Or,
living around rednecks. That's it. It's just about living around like the dude in the truck with the mullet. That's it. That's it. You just get around them enough. It's like a name, Joe. Let's go. Woo! Show me your butthole. You know, it's just what I know. I know the guy. Know the guy.
I think it's brilliant. Are you planning on bringing out a comic book?
I've been working on one, and I got good people on it. But it probably won't get together in 2025. It'll probably be closer to 2026. It's just, yeah, I thought it'd be easier to produce by having more people work on it, but it actually seems to be more complicated to get everybody working on it. And the next book we're doing is an anatomic book that's already almost over halfway done almost. So I kind of need to go ahead and run that next. And it actually works that I do Inglorious Rex 3 and then I do Anatomic and then I end up doing Inglorious Rex 4 because the Anatomic book is kind of a prequel. It's its own book spinoff, but it's actually a prequel to the whole series. And where I'm at with Inglorious Rex 3, we're out of the whole cage fighting thing that the monsters are all on the outside and they're fighting the Vile and King Vile and all this shit. Everything that they've been training for and everything that they've been evolving for. Now that's all happening. But at the same time, I'm kind of abandoning the whole concept of the cage fighting and Little T and the crime of the world and how he's manipulating the city. So the prequel book actually shoots me back to that original first issue concept, and I get to do that at the same time that I'm doing the other thing. So just the anatomic book makes sense that's the next book I put out because I'm covering all bases with Inglorious Rex that way, and because I mean the whole King Vile thing is its big thing on its own. It's like I'm abandoning the whole cage fighter monster thing for a while. For 3 and 4, it's kind of not in the book anymore.
Right. So you having a break from that whole thing, I guess.
Yeah, well, but I don't want to abandon it. So that's where, again, the anatomic stuff makes sense. I get to show more about Little T, why he's in control, how the crime syndicates he has control of them. Rex fighting the illegal gambling or manipulating gambling. Because the whole concept in the anatomic is in her fighting career, Little T says, I need you to take a dive. And it's, that's an issue.
And who's the writer? Who's the writer of Anatomic?
It's me and Yanzi. We're still doing that. So it's weird because I'm going forward and backward at the same time. Now the Mange book we're already working on and we're hiring people to do stories. It's more of an anthology thing, but we're trying to get that together. We're trying to get it moving.
And are you in your Mange comic? Are you going to be showing us the origins of him? Will he have like a lore? Will you show how he was created?
Not so much the origins, but you kind of get a sense. And there's some cameos in there. Lots of cameos.
Brilliant.
You'll see more of him. I don't want to talk too much about it though. I mean, I can't spoil it. Gotta move forward, Wodenshot says. Oh, we're moving forward together. It's going to be great, though. It's going to be great. I'll probably do some photo op covers. I'm going to try to hire some girls, because I know that's what people want. To see me surrounded by hoes.
And another thing I wanted to ask you as well. I don't know if it's true or not. A lot of people said that you one of the things that helped you get noticed by the big companies was that you were really good at drawing faces. Is that true? That you're good at human faces?
Well, what? No.
No. Right.
The way I first got into comics was doing merchandising artwork, like all the artwork. So I didn't just get into drawing comics. I actually worked for DC Comics for about, I don't know, I want to say like 2 years doing licensing artwork, which would be pictures of Batman, or Scarecrow, or Two-Face, or Ra's al Ghul, or Killer Croc. So
Right.
whenever you see Killer Croc with like an alligator spine, right? He never really had that before I designed that in the licensing department. And we did that even saying that we could attach a tail for kid toys. And then everybody started giving him like a alligator spine or whatever, a crocodile spine. And so why I bring the licensing stuff up is the licensing stuff is weird, where you have to kind of bend characters around in a nice silhouette or fold them up so they can go on like a lunchbox, right? The dimensions are different, right? So they're more rectangle shapes or designs, like they're squished in or folded up just right. Backpacks for kids, the side of tennis shoes and shit like that, activity books. So that was where I first got noticed to work in comics, was just all the Batman licensing artwork I did. And one of the first actual DC Comics jobs, I had a few single issue jobs at Marvel drawing like some Spider-Man stuff, but I was super stylized. And then in the licensing work, I was trying to be a more mainstream style. And then they ended up pulling me for a fill-in issue of Batman. And then from there, I got the Batman annual. But, I got stuck on Superman because not a lot of artists have problems drawing Superman's face. Like Superman's actually like it's artist. It's a hell of a lot easier to draw Batman than it is Superman. And so working at DC Comics, they would see me draw like, say, Superman in like a JLA issue or something like that. And then they're like, no, you need to go work on Superman Batman. Now you need to go work on Superman Earth 1. Do a Superman cover here or there. And I kind of got pigeonholed, and I kept trying to get back to working on Batman because that's where I really liked. And they would use my artwork for all this merchandise, like tennis shoes. And, I even showed Dan in a bag. He's like, oh, what is all this stuff you brought me? And I'm like, no, this is all my shit on Batman. Why can't I work on Batman? It was like, Easter baskets and shit. I'll still see the artwork used today on licensing stuff. So the face thing really has to do with I could just draw Superman looking charming or not too scary. Sometimes I could draw him scary, but rarely ever do you draw Superman scary or moody in shadow. Like he has to be just pleasant looking, It rarely ever calls for that red eye, heavy lit Superman.
He's a man you can trust, isn't he? He's like,
yeah. The story rarely gives you the opportunity to draw scary Superman. Right. So it's just he's a weird dynamic. Whereas you'd see like artists like Tony Daniel get Superman, it's like they just put him on Batman all the time. Everybody gets Batman. The same with Green Lantern, like drawing Green Lantern sometimes because of his mask, you get those, that you get that heroic but intimidating Batman eyes. You don't get that with Superman. Like you don't get if he's not using heat vision, you have to get his eyes to look right. It's just it's not harder, it's not the word, it's just you have to hit the right note with Superman. Because people don't know this, but I'm gonna get the guy's name. It wasn't C. No, what was it was a comic artist. I can't remember his name right now. Kurt Swan was on contract at DC Comics, and this weird lifetime contract. He was a famous Superman artist, and he would even have to go over and redraw faces in the books of other artists. Like that's at some point he was just they would hand him the pages like I need you to draw all the Jimmy Olsen Superman faces. Like he was the guy that DC Comics like that's what Superman looks like. He even redrew Kirby's faces for Superman in the Jimmy Olsen issues. A lot of people forget about that, but yeah, that drawing Superman is not the easiest thing. Sometimes they actually have to go, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even say in the chat he redrew Jack's faces for Superman. Not just Jack, I think even the Jimmy Olsen faces. I think. Or maybe it was just Superman.
And Dennis is asking you, Shane, can you unlock the 24-hour cover for a while?
Probably not, Dennis. That covers a long gone. I want to keep that special for the people that jumped in. So
That's fair enough, isn't it?
he was the guy said, do you make your face your drawing? I want to talk about that. So when we so when I went to the Kubert school, one of the things they told us all to get is a mirror. So we'd be sitting in a class, all drawing tables, right? Maybe 20 some people in there, and we all have a mirror on our desk. And the idea is that like if you're trying to draw a face, like an angry face, you can just sit there, be drawn, and go.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned to draw, is looking in a mirror to get different facial expressions.
That's interesting. That's quite a good hack.
Well, I mean, a lot of people, that is how like people learn to draw faces. I mean, you're because in comics you end up with a variety of faces, right? You have to get all these different expressions. And this is before like I could just go to Google and type something in, right? So that how we learn to draw faces.
Yeah. And you've done a lot of work on Wonder Woman as well, didn't you?
No, I drew like one issue and I did a cover here that I did not work on Wonder Woman that much. I mean, she would appear in Justice League and stuff. So people maybe every now and then find something from that. But, you know, that's kind of it, you know. I think what I mainly worked on was the most out of all my career. The one character was Superman, because I basically did 2 graphic novels, and then I did a 6-issue run of Superman Batman, and then I actually did a few pages in Action Comics. I did some Superman covers, and then I also drew multiple issues of Justice League that had Superman in it. So mainly what I'm known for, worked on. And I even had like a Superman statue at DC Direct. I had like a Superman line of action figures for my Superman Batman run. There was like a Superman Batman toy, Livewire, and Aquaman. So I did a lot of Superman.
So when you and Yanzi got married and you decided to be a team, like doing the comics, what was your first joint project that you both worked on together, like the first ever thing you did?
She had to help me ink Metalman.
Right.
She's uncredited, and sometimes you'll see a cover and you can see her initials on it, whether it's at Marvel or whatever. Because Metalman, the one inker that was attached started dropping out for some medical stuff, and I was already going at high speed. COVID hit, and that kind of bought everybody a little extra time. So they were like, "Can you try inking 5 pages this issue?" And then so 5 issues came here, 10 pages came there, and before you know it, I was inking 20 pages, and then eventually the editor's like, "Fuck it, fuck the person who's not doing the work. You guys just do the work." Yanzi was helping out a lot. She was actually just damn near inking those pages, and I would go over them, and it was getting done. You know, it basically, she just kind of ended up we were just trying to get the book done, and I didn't want to farm it out to 20 inkers and it just looked like shit. There's a problem whenever something happens like that. It happened on my first Batman issue. An inker named Larry Stucker basically held on to an entire Batman issue and then told him after the time ran out that he wasn't going to do it, and only inked 3 pages and kept the splash page for himself, wouldn't even mail it back to the company. And you know, and that guy kind of got blacklisted at DC for that, because the Batman book was like their top selling book at the time for the Red Hood stuff. Like, it was all in Wizard magazine and everything. But what happened, because of how he took away he didn't do anything with his time, is it meant all my pages had to be busted out to 3 different inkers, and they just had to get it done with what time they had. And I ended up with like my issue completely compromised. My no matter how much time I put in these pencils, these inkers just had to get it done, you know. And it got to print on time. I'm the guy that in the end that ends up fucked. The guy stole a splash page original because DC told him to mail it in and they would divide them, and he said, no, I'm keeping this one. So he disobeyed the actual company. If Dan needs to hear this story, because Dan's gotten involved in that, you can hear this, because he was like, hey, Larry sent me this artwork of yours, is like, or showed me a picture, and I'm like, yeah, he's a fucking liar. He's like, bro, you can't talk about it. I'm like, the company told him to mail him in, and he said no and kept it for himself. He fucking stole it. So anyways, but my issue ended up just getting fucked up because the guy just wouldn't say, I can't do the work. That's one thing. If anybody ever worked for anybody, be honest with what you can and can't do, because the only thing you're going to do is fuck over people, including yourself. So, you know, so anyways, back to the Metalman thing, I was like, Yanzi, you think you can help me with this so we don't chop shop this run, but we're not just shooting it out to anybody who can spill ink on paper, you know? And basically that's how she ended up getting inking. But she had always been cartooning for herself, like drawing like her cartoons. She draws like chibi type characters and stuff. So she had already been using tech pens and inking her stuff. She just never.
And has Yancy got any?
It was just fan stuff.
She's
never published. It was always just fan stuff that she was doing, like on whatever forums back in the day and stuff. I mean, that's all it was.
It'd be interesting. She should try and work on her own book of her drawings. That'd be quite interesting. I'd like that.
Yeah, somebody said Shane has tall tails. I don't think they're that tall. I think you can go look up the issue and you can see it. You can go read that issue and see how many inkers in.
How dare you? Shane Davis is the man you can trust. He doesn't make up tall.
I don't remember the issue, but it was a Batman. It says bombastic battle on it. It's got an explosion. Red Hood. It's part of the Red Hood saga. You can go look at the credits and see how many inkers are involved in that. But only one penciler. 2 + 2 = 4. Why was I drawing the entire issue, but we have 1 million inkers on it?
And growing up in the South, then you must have. Did you get into a lot of fights growing up? Was there a lot of like rivalries in your area?
Yeah, kids fight. Oh, you're asking about the kickboxing stuff. Oh, Batman 646 is the issue.
Like in general, I mean, like when you were growing up.
Yes, kids fight. Yeah.
Did you have any rivals, like particular people that stick out in your mind, like local bullies or anything like that?
No. I mean, I would get in trouble in school and shit, you know. Right. I mean, but it would just, you know, we'd both end up punished, and you know, who started it, you both get detention or whatever type shit. You know, it's just kid shit. Not really rivals. Shane Davis apology tour 2025 starts now. Do it. Jonny, what have I got to apologize for? Yeah.
Your glasses are amazing. You have got a good sunglasses collection, haven't you? You must have a few pairs.
Over the years of doing YouTube, yeah, I end up buying random shit. I'll just be walking in the shop somewhere and I'll see something and just almost, I got to get that. And they look at me like, you actually want this? I'm like, yes. Yes. They're like, this shit's been sitting here. I'm getting into 90s tracksuits. Like, I just like these things. You know what I'm saying? You know.
Jimmy Savile used to rock them back in the day. He made them famous.
Yeah.
I know you're nothing like him, though. You can reinvent it.
No. I kind of know a little bit about him. I know there's a documentary about him. I've heard it from Choke Out, but that's all I know. I'm nothing like him.
It's not even worth looking into him. He's a disgusting creature. It just makes you feel sick. But yeah. It's brilliant. Have you got any more? Have you got any plans for Nine Lives Comics coming up in the future? Any sort of like expansions or new projects that people don't know about? Something anything you're working on or got in your head?
Well, I mean, the anatomic book, like I was saying, a lot of it's already done. So, we're wanting to launch that later this year. When I say a lot, I want to say like over 20 some pages of it's already done. And I showed the logo the other night and stuff like that. I don't know if I have that email open because I switched computers. So I don't know if I can actually pull up anything from it. But that's coming along really great. We're going to launch that later this year. Really, honestly, man, I'm lucky if I can get one book done a year with the YouTubing and promotion stuff. You know, I know people out there like he don't promo but himself, but no, I do. And I have streams I have to do. We have to keep the lights on around here. I have to keep my channel going. So there's that. That takes up a lot of time. I went from drawing like something like 8 to 12 issues a year to I'm lucky if I can get one really nice graphic novel done a year. And that's the other thing too. Everybody that's backing me, I don't want to just like get the book done and get it to you and say, hey, I got it to you. It's like, I mean, there's tons of books that are done in your comic shop that you can go buy. What I'm doing here is the best work I've ever done. So I got to put everything I got into the work. I mean, at comics, we're at the end of comics. I don't know if anybody knows this. The comics we know, it's playing out. It's on life support, diamonds crashing, comic shops. I saw a post from Rob Liefeld. He said he didn't think he could put out the new Youngblood book he's doing into the direct market. He thinks they can't sustain. So I don't even know. I didn't even read the article, but Rob is like, I'm doing a Youngblood book. I don't think I can put it into the direct market. I mean, that's how bad things are. We are watching comics collapse from SJW shit. Okay, because if comics were selling, Diamond would not be in bankruptcy. It's just the way it works. They had a set percentage of these books they were taking. And we're watching it collapse because of SJW Comics. Nobody's talking about it either. That's what drives me nuts. It's like you could literally say why this happened. So as far as Nine Lives Comics goes, it's like I'm not trying to make quantity. I'm trying to make quality. I'm trying to make the best comic I ever had. And I think everybody needs to start doing that. I think everybody needs to slow down, get the best book you can. I don't care if your book's already done. The goddamn comic industry is dying off of books being done that you don't have to pay shipping for. So, I mean, I want to take my time with Rex, make it the best book I can. I mean, I could just do 2 Rex books a year and never stream. I don't think that's going to help me sell, and just one, the book would be mediocre. 2, nobody would know who the fuck I am because I'm not streaming. So, I want to be part of the network. So I kind of say I can do 1 good book a year. Anatomic, I'm going to put that out. and we have an artist on board for that. And I want to do the Mange book 2026 sometime, and then Rex 3 and Rex 4, they kind of go straight into one another. So, and Rex 4 will probably be the end of the first big arc of it, and it gives me a position where I can step away from it for a while if I want. So that's my goal going into 2026 is those two things.
Brilliant. I must say, when I first stumbled across the Comicsgate community online, your channel was one of the first ones I started watching, because I find you very entertaining. You've got a good attitude. You're not boring, and
I'm trying to keep that good attitude too. I'm trying to keep that good attitude. I am. I wish more people. That's one thing that disappoints me, man. Yesterday, I got really disappointed. I don't really. I want to see more people active with channels in this community and being entertaining and having commercial breaks to sell books. I don't know. That's the Comicsgate I watched. That's the Comicsgate I came into on. That's what I thought was genius about Comicsgate. Yeah. And it seemed like a perfect formula, right?
Yeah. You're sort of like, you're getting to hang around with other artists and promoting each other's work at the same time. And you've got a lot of good people,
but you want to be entertaining. You know, the easiest thing I could have done is just put my camera and show people how to draw Batman, you know, or how to draw this. And I don't know if people want that by the numbers. I think readers sometimes don't care about drawing. I don't know if every reader cares about story. Like, you know, probably like, what do you think? Do you think every DVD or Blu-ray people watch the commentary? No.
No.
I mean, if you could put a percentage of movies played, of Blu-rays played, how many times people selected the director's commentary, it'd probably be shocking. It's probably like under 1%. I mean, most people that ingest entertainment don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's very true. And when I was looking, I was looking up some videos of you earlier, and I found an old interview. Do you mind if I pull it up? It's only like 4 minutes.
I guess. I don't know what interview it is.
It's just amazing to see how much you've changed. It's was called the Philly Comic Con.
Oh yeah.
That
girl was lusting.
Oh,
she saw Mange in me.
She was after you. She wanted a bit of the Davis.
She was. I was flexing. Trying to hit her with the old pheromones.
Hi, I'm Marlene, and I'm here with Shane Davis. And are you still in exclusive contract with DC?
Yes, at the moment, yes.
So you're just a DC artist right now?
DC artist at the moment, yes.
So you worked on a lot of things recently. You did some precursor work to Blackest Night. You did Superman Earth 1.
Yes.
Which was kind of a...
Superman, Batman before that. Some work on JLA. Mysteries in Space is probably the oldest thing I did. That's way, way back. But yeah, I've been around the box at DC. So
I just read Superman Earth 1 recently, actually. And it's kind of considered a big game changer for Superman's history.
Yes, we went in it like with big ambitions, and you know, hopefully the fans like what they got.
Over breaking hearts.
I have to say that you draw one of the most handsome Clark Kents I've ever seen, and I have to say that. I'm sorry. So how was it? It was so well received as a book. How do you feel about that?
You know, I'm happy, but I went in it okay if I failed at it. You know, to tackle it as a reboot and do it correctly, I had to go in it knowing that I wouldn't make everybody happy. You know, comics, and anything in life, you know, the quickest way to failure is trying to make everybody happy, you know, so...
Oh God, she's hanging on to every word. Look at her. That's when your girl really wants you. She's like tilting her head and moving her hair around. She's really want me to look at her.
Buy Superman, that maybe they'll buy other Superman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I went at it for the new audience, but I was very respectful to the basics of the character at the same time.
She was
And
locked
what
in.
inspired your art style, especially for this book?
My stuff has been like more and more changing to more of a realistic style, but also
I'm trying to get her to
modern
look at my
fiction
guns. That's why they're itchy.
I'm
like,
more of an illustrated type movie in a way.
Probably,
I
yeah.
noticed.
That's what I
think a lot of people
She was
are
thirsty.
like, this felt like a movie. And
Uh,
I think a lot more of my influences have been coming more from movie directors lately.
yeah, Shane is
lot of movies
oblivious to
and
how
stuff
she's
like that.
into me. I
So
know.
when can we expect Volume 2 to be out? Because I know a lot of fans are really looking forward to it.
I'm actually 70 pages done with Volume 2. We just approved the cover for Volume 2 like last night, so I will be working on the cover really soon. And we haven't pegged
Her initial
release date
dialogue
yet.
is "Shut
The
up
way
and
the
eat me
book
now."
does
Wow.
is we print up a version that goes out for book reviews. So even after I'm done, we have to submit and wait for book reviews, and then that's where you get the nice little excerpts on the back. So it's a little bit of a different publishing process, and we haven't pinpointed a date yet, but it is well in the
This
works.
is awkward
And
watching
what other
this,
stuff are you
man.
working on now?
At the moment, I am in talks of
I think you've done well.
co-plotting and writing with
Considering she was
with
so
a-
thirsty, you
a
kind of
Marvel
ignored
writer.
it.
Yeah, like I just,
which is
you
gonna
know,
be a reboot of one of their characters.
You
That's
didn't
in the
fall
very
for her
beginning stages
charm,
right now,
did
but
you?
it's gonna be very exciting
No.
stuff.
Can you give us a hint?
He's a tiny superhero. Okay, there you go.
Thank you very much.
Big in heart, but he's big in heart.
But
He's
tiny
big in
in
heart.
stature.
But yes. But well worth the punch, So.
Well, thank you.
Brilliant.
yeah.
I think you've come a long way. Your fashion's much better now as well. You look amazing.
Now, if I could go back and have that interview dressed like this, the black ladies love mange, though. I could dress like this at a con. That girl won't look at me. The black ladies will.
It's interesting, that, isn't it? I wonder why
Yeah.
black women like hillbilly boys, like white
No,
hillbillies.
no. I think it's nature. Like they come out of the hood, they see rednecks, and it's going to freshen the genetic pool of the hood. Like that's what it is. It's nature, right? Right. They want to introduce my genes into the hood.
Yeah, I guess it's like exotic to them, isn't it? It's
Get
kind of
some
like something
nice camel colored babies out there going shit.
different.
Woo!
What's that? We've got Shane A. Dumpster. Oh, good. What did it brother again?
Look, mange be out there sewing hood babies.
Yeah, Maine is the man. I really appreciate you coming on tonight, Shane. And
Now you
thank
can read
so much.
Treble 08 with the AIDS dumpster Davis. He's always doing that. It's fine. That's money. Go ahead. Read it. Read it right in front of me. I'm impervious to his bullshit.
Yeah, there's always one. Here we are. What is it? What's he asking?
Shane AIDS
we-
Dumpster Davis thought he could get that ass of hers. He wanted her brother in that ass. Woo! Fuck you, Shrevels. For $6.69.
What a burn that was. You must be devastated.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on, Shane, and I'll let you enjoy the rest of your night with your beautiful
Oh,
wife.
yeah. Thank you for having me, Johnny Scabs. Woo!
Much
Everybody hit like,
appreciated,
subscribe, ring the bell for notification. Real
thank
quick,
you, everyone.
though, give me
Carry-
one
carry on.
second. I want to share my screen if I can.
Yeah, of course you can, mate.
All right. So let me sorry, I have a new computer with new windows. I got everything closed. And it's
No
hard
worries.
to believe, man. It's hard to believe I'm there. Like I'm there. This is our third in the series. It's like holy shit. And which is almost $1 million IP at this point. So damn near it. Like Inglorious Rex 3 guys. If you guys, I am pulling this down probably the end of the month around the 26th. If you guys want to grab it, make sure to get yourself a copy while it's up. So I appreciate all the support I get from Comicsgate. It's all needed. You guys have been great. This campaign is surpassed Inglorious Rex 2, and that pisses a lot of people off. But hey, it's a great book. People are loving it. And if you want to sample it, you can read it at ingloriousrex.com. We have a preview. And if you go to shop, we do sell issues that ship out next day. Some con issues and stuff are up for $25 still. So while those are there, you're able to get them and they ship next day, and you might get them in time before I take this campaign down. If you're just wanting to sample Inglorious Rex before committing, we do try to accommodate you with that. So thank you guys for all the support. We're over the moon on this, $265,000 and moving up. Let's see where we land. Our next stretch goal is a poster at $275, a folded poster that everybody gets a mini poster free with each book backing. So there you guys go. Thank you for having me on, Johnny. You have a great night. And
thank you for coming on. It's been an honor, Shane. Thank you. And you're welcome on my channel anytime. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Hail the great reader. Adios, everyone. Much love.
Adios.
Wodenshot said Shane Davis, when writing your comic books, is creating interesting goog eyes and bag eyes hard in this age of anti-heroes and morally gray characters.
I set forth. I set forth. Here's what's weird. I put a.
Morally.
I learned to draw so I could draw comics, right? For the mentally challenged, the illiterate, that is, like, people like Wodenshot. Obviously, he's illiterate. I draw these pictures to help him understand and process the word balloons. The pictures, yeah. And I hope to God one day he can learn to spell.
Characters.
Morally gray characters. Sorry.
These SJW bitches, you are purposely trying to cancel me so you get my achievements. So you walk around with my scalp and you're like, well, if Shane achieved this, look at what I did because I took down Shane. These motherfuckers think they're fucking Highlanders. They think they can go around cutting people's heads off and the quickening happens or some shit. Fucking lightning's gonna hit them, a fucking Queen song's gonna light up and play, and these motherfuckers are gonna be more powerful than they were before. It's not the case. You are no more talented by canceling me.
It's getting close. It's getting married. Where the Shane Davis at? Where my Shane Davis?
Rangy is the Comicsgate god. Voodoo powers in his hand. Sleeps with your mamas, oh yes. Just $5, he's the man. Women love him, what a sight. Range commands the darkest night. King of all with charm so grand. Takes your worries with glance. Range is king, yes he is. Every lady wants his kiss. Magic flows from every word. Best believe you've seen and heard. Motivational he inspires. Voodoo dances round the fire. Range commands the night so bright. In the shadows he's the light. Makes all your troubles disappear. Mange is king, yes he is. Every lady wants his kiss. Magic flows from every word.
No complaints.
Woo!
No complaints. No complaints
Man, I
from the
just got
bully.
raped by the main.
Ah!